Hey everyone, welcome back to the Essentials channel. So today we'll be doing on Skye at Holland's review because this is one of the projects that I've gotten extensive information on. This time around, the developer is being very proactive in releasing official information so that I think they want to create a lot more awareness given the next 4 launches that are coming out, such as Penreef, Faber Walk and The Sand, with Skye at Holland inclusive in the 4 projects. So with that in mind, that's why we are doing this review today. Will Skye be the limit or will Holland? So let's go ahead and review this project today. So as always, what we'll be going through today will be the rapid fire information, why I would not buy Skye, why I will buy Skye, and followed by the final verdict. So as always, to keep me motivated, I hope you like the unique insights, perspectives, and so far many of you have reached out to me. Please continue reaching out to me if you have any property needs so that we can set up a one-to-one consultation and I can cater to all your scenarios. Remember to like, share and subscribe, alright, to make sure to keep me motivated in creating more unique content for you. So now let's head into the rapid fire information. First of all, Skye at Holland is actually a joint venture between CapitaLand Development, UOL Group, Singapore Land Group and Kheng Leong Company. Basically, it's a unification of 4 developers coming together to build this wonderful project. An iconic landmark. I can see why, because based on the land price that they get in at, it's really very attractive. Everybody wants a piece of this investment, and now you get the best of 4 worlds. All the 4 renowned developers, one that is focused on creating iconic architecture such as CapitaLand, and you got UOL Group that always creates very regular shape layouts, and they have the right formula to always result in a sell-out project. You have Kheng Leong, who always places livability as their #1 priority, and of course Singapore Land Group that always has a specialty of choosing very good lands. Alright, so there must be a reason why 4 developers decide to place their trust in this land. Probably as a consumer yourself, you may actually want to follow what the vision of these developers are. UOL always has this very unique insight where they always pick lands that are very sustainable, that focuses a lot on livability, but not only that, they are always in communication with the government in a way, so they are always there for the first movers advantage. You will realize based on their past few developments such as Avenue South, such as Pine Tree Hill, like even older properties such as Waterbank, they always choose places where there is nature that focuses a lot on livability, but not only that, government transformation. You will realize that they are always in it first before things are announced. So can there be a possible announcement in the Holland area? Let's see in the near future. So the tenure is of course 99 leaseholds starting from 19 August 2024. It is a proposed 2 blocks of 40-story residential, total number of units 666, with 2 basement, 2-story car park, a swimming pool, sky terrace and communal facilities. 2 Holland Village Way and 6 Holland Village Way, sitting on a site area of 12,388 square meters, total number of units 666. The unit mix is as follows. 2 bedrooms, you got type B1 and B2, 581 square feet, 74 units. 2 bedroom premium, 667 square feet and 678 square feet, 148 units. 2 bedroom premium plus study, 732 and 743 square feet, 148 units. 3 bedroom, 915 square feet, 74 units. 3 bedroom premium, 74 units. 4 bedroom, 1238 square feet, 74 units. 4 bedroom premium with private lift, 37 units. 5 bedroom private lift, 37 units. Total 666 units. With this, we can see the unit mix being 44.44% focused on 3 bedrooms and above. This is a little bit of a shift in terms of the unit distribution this time round, where close to half of the development is already catering to homestay demand needs as well. I think the developers must have done their on-the-ground research and realized that there's not much developments in the Holland area. It's true, there is developments within the Farrer area where people are going for the Nanyang Primary School. That's why we got Leiden Residences, Leiden Green as well as Hill on Holland. But if you realize at the heart of Holland itself, there's basically not much choices other than a few boutique developments such as Mui, such as Enclave at Holland, as well as Loft at Holland. These are boutique developments that do not cater to livability needs and of families. So I think after studying the ground, they realized that due to this lack of supply, there may be a pent-up demand for homestay needs audiences, and that is the reason why I think they have shifted their focus and distribution to having more 3 bedroom and 4 bedrooms here as compared to their counterparts at Upper House. Alright, and with that in mind, the only other contender or competition, which will be the mixed development, One Holland Village Residences right beside it. As compared to their counterparts from Upper House, which Upper House itself, the unit mix, the 3 and 4 bedrooms are only 20%. So this time around, they actually increased by an additional 20+% in terms of unit distribution to the 3 and 4 bedrooms. Is the developer actually spotting something? And in fact, this is very much in line with my usual vision of more livability, homestay demand units that will keep prices sustainable, especially in the CCR. And I think I'm just going to see that within the Holland area this time round with Skye at Holland. Right, so now we move on to why I would not buy Skye at Holland. So the first things first is actually there are no perfect views for this development. Every unit itself or every block itself has a slight disadvantage one way or another. So here we have a site plan that is simulated due to our limited resources. We have this site plan that is simulated in this format, that we have the two blocks actually cascading against each other. So first of all, if you look at stack 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, this one would likely be the one commanding the best views. Alright, views like this that you actually can get the view towards the low-rise houses and Bukit Timah Nature Reserve. Because if we look at the site plan against the master plan itself, you will realize that you are surrounded by GCB such as Holland Rise, GCB Queen Astrid Park, GCB Ui Tiong Nam, GCB Leiden Park and GCB Fort Avenue. Means these are here to stay for a very, very long time. And that also means very clear vision with no blockages along the way. Alright, but the key thing to take note is this. Although this may be the best view, but if you look at the site orientation itself, it actually gets a northwest facing or a northwest orientation. And with that northwest orientation, depending on the time of the year, you can really get very scorching hot sun from the west side, especially you are the only building standing up tall down there. Meaning to say the exposure to the west sun can be quite hot. Now, I'm not saying that it's a very huge issue, but speaking from a personal point of view, staying in a northwest unit, you do get quite a fair bit of the sun depending on earlier parts or later parts of the year. Like now, it belongs to the later part of the years. My sun is actually more or towards the right side slanted, so I don't really get that much exposure to the west sun. But towards the first half of the year, I was really getting the west sun more towards my living room facing. Meaning to say the west sun does come in straight on head up in one way or another. I actually have to have my smart home time the curtains or the day curtains to close off at 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. so that the harsh sunlight do not come in. And bear in mind, now you are surrounded by the landed enclave, naturally you will get more exposure to the sun given how high a skyscraper you are going to be. Next, of course, if we look in deeper, we got stacks 3 to 9, 3, 2, 1, 10 and 9 that faces the opposite block. Either you are facing the driveway or you are facing out towards, or stack 10 and 9 faces out towards the small road that leads into your entrance of the project. That itself again may not be a good feeling, or based on feng shui, we call it a bit of lu tong. Of course, for those younger generation, they are not so pantang, then naturally this won't be a factor for them. But if you realize the block to block distance is about 31 to 32 meters, that itself is only about half a lap pool. That proximity is actually quite close. It does bring down a little bit of the livability factors given that you are looking into each other. Now, this is going to be applied to the same thing, stack 17, 18, 11 and 12, where they look into the opposite block as well. Maybe 17 might get a clearer view, right? It gets a bit of a hybrid towards the GCB side of things. Now we have block 6, the other side of block 6, 16, 15, 14 and 13. While you also will be able to get very clear views that clears the Holland Village low rise and you get towards the city view. Alright, the next thing is also there is Holland Vista, the future HDB development, that all these stacks will probably be in their line of sight as well. Mainly 16, 15 and 14 will get quite a fair bit of the exposure based on the simulation of site plans against Holland Vista. As much as they try to maximize the unblocked views, in a way there is always something that is here to cause a disadvantage. What I really like about what the developer tried to do is to avoid the line of sight from the One Holland Village residences to towers. In fact, when the land was sold that time, when every time I drive past, my main concern was, wow, xiao liao already. The One Holland Village people that actually bought for the landed view may be blocked by future Skye at Holland residential development. But fortunately, the developers are also very smart. They do not want to block each other as well. So they of course shifted the two blocks to be squeezed in the biggest area of the lands. But the next thing is this, because of this shift, end up every facing itself has a slight disadvantage, and it's depending on which one you would prefer, the better of the worst. That is one of the reasons why I would not buy Skye at Holland, because with all these facings, there's not one that will cause a breakthrough in prices. Maybe the GCB side of things will actually be able to pull up the prices in that sense because of the kind of premium views that we are not able to get in most of the developments in Holland area. But then again, it brings along a northwest facing that may cause erratic pricing as well, and that's why you may see transactions there being quite muted, because the future resale buyers have to accept a disadvantage, but it's depending on what form or what kind of disadvantage that you're willing to leave. Okay, so now let's move on to the second pointer why I will not buy Skye at Holland. Second pointer is always about the transformation. So you remember our three-phase transformation framework: announcement, completion, infrastructure. If you're not sure about that, refer to our previous videos on that where I give a full explanation. The key thing is this: Holland being a matured estate already, the rejuvenation has already been announced, has already been completed, and now the infrastructure phase is already in motion quite a few years back. That's why you see the rejuvenation happening, such as the introduction of a new HDB estate called the Holland Vista, which of course it is the HDB Prime housing BTO. And then finally, we have this GLS being sold down here, the last plot of GLS within Holland itself. So meaning to say, it's more or less done deal here already. The transformation is already over. What other form of breakthrough are you going to be getting in this area? What other new ideas or future plans that will be able to help drive up the prices? You are basically the last land in Holland already. People always say the next land will always set a new benchmark for the previous lands that has been sold in the area. But where is the land going to come from in terms of this main Holland village area? Because why? The next transformation is actually just a few hundred meters down the road, which is the Holland Plain transformation, where the township is actually transforming down there. The first land has already been sold. With the new Holland Plain area where the government is focusing its transformation on. Now that one is the announcement phase, going into the completion phase, and that's where they are introducing township there, the infrastructure phase. And you will realize that at the Holland Link itself, there, based on the screenshot down here, we can see there is also an educational plot down there. So meaning to say there may be a school there as well. Alright, so with that in mind, these are the two main reasons why I will not buy Skye at Holland. Well, of course, as always, this segment itself is to bring out the cons of the project. It is me being a very nitpicky consumer here, trying to bring a different perspective to the table. But then again, are there any counter objections to this? Stay tuned and find out. Now we move on to why I will buy Skye at Holland. First of all, it is the low land bid price that results in a safe entry price. So if we look at it, here we have a map of the recent land bids, and we see Skye at Holland entering at 1285 per square foot per plot ratio. We have existing projects like Nava Grove, RCR property, 1233 per square foot per plot ratio. We have Alta, 1250 per square feet per plot ratio. We have Holland Link, which is the most recent one, RCR 1432 per square foot per plot ratio. Dunyan Road, CCR 1410 per square foot per plot ratio. Chuan Grove, which is the recent land bid price of 1376 per square foot per plot ratio. The Ori, we saw it at 1250 per square foot per plot ratio, and Bayshore 1388 per square foot per plot ratio. So with that in mind, we can see how Skye at Holland actually fares in terms of the land bid price itself. But let's take a look and have a deeper dive. If we compare this to actually Alta, where the Alta land was actually bidded at 1250 per square foot per plot ratio, their launch price was between 22 PSF to finally the highest sale of 2881 PSF. It is 39 stories, 501 units, sharing the same similar kind of land structure. And if we look at that, am I right to say, given how the land bid price of 1285 PSF per plot ratio for Skye at Holland, are we able to get back a close enough pricing compared to Alta? I think we may be actually seeing the prices to be in the averagely 28 PSF. That may be the starting from prices. Given that this is in CCR itself, I think definitely the developers will try to maximize a bit of their profits, but most importantly still remain competitive, and we can actually draw a good comparison to what were the previous prices transacted, and we can then predict from here what Skye at Holland will be. Next, we have Nava Grove as well. Nava Grove, the land bid price was 1233 per square foot per plot ratio, and their launch price was at 2209 PSF for probably the one bedrooms, with an average PSF of 2469 PSF, and then finally 2748 PSF. With that in mind, the land bid price of the Skye at Holland is just a little bit higher by about 50 per square foot per plot ratio. With that in mind, probably we can achieve an average pricing of about 2800 PSF, putting this in a very narrow price gap creating more opportunities for Skye at Holland. Next, we can also draw the same comparison to the Ori itself as well. Ori itself started off with a 2395 PSF, probably is the road facing ones to attract, but the average PSF is about 2731 PSF, with the highest transacting at 3064 PSF. Alright, the land bid price was 1250 PSF, just $30+ shy away from the Skye at Holland PSF per plot ratio. And with that in mind, we can see from here, these are all the price ranges of the respective bedroom types. Are we able to achieve a similar average PSF of about 28 PSF at Skye at Holland? I think the chances are also very, very high. So with that in mind, it does put Skye at Holland in a very competitive pricing in that sense. And here we actually have the price chart comparisons between OCR, RCR and CCR. So if we look at it, the average OCR pricing is about 2131 PSF in terms of new launches. RCR is about 2709 PSF on average, and CCR is 3118 PSF. So if Skye at Holland was to launch, due to its low land bid price, were to launch at about 27 for maybe the road facing ones, alright, and then as the premium facing, you probably put in a 200 PSF premium to make it 28 or 29 PSF. You are still about 100 to 200 PSF below the average CCR prices. Depending on what kind of facing you get, you are probably getting the same price as an RCR project at about 2700 PSF, and if you go for slightly more premium views, you are just about 100 PSF higher than the average RCR prices. So with that in mind, actually hovering around this kind of region provides you with price protection, safety net, and most importantly, safe entry price. So of course, to all my audiences out there, does it mean that you buy Nava Grove then you are losing out? Not really. Of course, we have to be mindful also, just for the benefit of this educational video, we have to be mindful also that the land size itself at Skye at Holland is only at about 129,000 square feet, and they are paying 1285 per square foot per plot ratio for that. And with that in mind, Nava Grove itself is double the land size at 269,000 square feet for a lower pricing. Basically, the developer at Nava Grove, which is MCL, also managed to get a much bigger plot of land for the same pricing compared to a smaller plot of land. So with that in mind, definitely the developer can do a lot more, and the livability factors of those may be slightly better, alright, because of a bigger land size with the same number of units as compared to what we see here at Skye at Holland. But definitely this Skye at Holland land bid price is an advantage to take note of, because it does balance back whatever disadvantages this land size have by giving you a more competitive entry price. The government is also not stupid in that sense. They also are mindful. They are not here to rock the stability of prices. Just like last happened to be bidded before in the Marina Garden Crescent, where if it is too low and it will affect previous launch prices, so on and so forth, they will actually block the bid. So the government is very clear with the vision here to create a more sustainable pricing throughout the regions, whether you're OCR, RCR or CCR. So it is a balancing act in terms of the main pointers. So just in case my audiences out there are getting jittery and say that they got it wrongly, first of all, you got your opportunity of time, which was back then, time is of the essence. You got into the market early, you have seen your benefits such as your Alta and Nava Grove. Of course, now I'm here stating why I will buy Skye at Holland. This is one of the factors that can help balance back and create good entry pricing for Skye at Holland, which presents us opportunity. But if we deep dive a little bit, the difference in land sizes is also going to bring back some advantages to different ones. But of course, today our main focus is still at Skye at Holland. Point number 2, low supply, high demand. Now this is the perfect point to every winning formula of real estate. You will realize that areas like the Clementi Enclave, where you have Clement Canopy, Clavon as well as Alta. Low supply, high demand has always been the winning formula for all real estate. So we take Toa Payoh for example, where we have Gem Residences. Alright, Gem Residences itself, despite it having a little bit of flaws within the layout, but you can see within a 4 years time frame, the annualized growth has been hovering about 7 to 8%, and the exit strategy is a lot faster as compared to areas like Redhill, where you have more than 10 developments with a similar number of population within the Redhill as compared to Toa Payoh. End up, their annualized returns are a lot lower and their exit timing is a lot longer. So another example will also be the Clementi area, where you have Clement Canopy, Clavon as well as Alta. Again, the population there is about 102,000 in terms of Clementi's population. Divided by 3.11, you will need about 33,000 homes. But in that densely populated area, there is only 3 to 4 condos inclusive of Park Clementi's to serve the area. And look at how their track record has been. So this is also naturally the same here in Holland Village itself. Holland Village itself boasts a population of about 10,000 residents. It belongs to a subset of the Queenstown area. So being in Queenstown area itself, it is also a population of 82,000. But of course, we got the areas like Kallang, Tiong Bahru, as well as Bidadari. All these RCR HDB population is about 356,900. Alright, and from there we just talk about 10% of the upgraders come out. It will be 35,690 residents coming out to upgrade. Divide by the average 3.11, we will already need about 11,000 homes. So this is your demand in a way, because these people who stay in RCR HDBs generally are sport since young, or sport because of their lifestyle. They're close to amenities, close to city, close to everything. And in order for them to make an upgrade, for them it definitely has to be in the CCR area. And for them to retain a similar lifestyle, they need to be in heartland areas in the CCR. So heartland areas like Holland, heartland areas like River Valley, heartland areas like Novena. Alright, these are places that still has heartland community activities that will retain their current lifestyle that they have, but they still consider this as a form of upgrade. Because if you ask them to move further out just to upgrade to a condo, they're not going to do that. Why would they need to forsake whatever that they currently have in their lifestyle? So only moving up the ladder and the societal progression is the only way to do so, and it's the only more feasible choice for them by going into areas like Holland area and River Valley area. With that in mind, the low supply, high demand is the next thing. Now we move on to the third pointer of why I will buy Skye at Holland. It is a renewed opportunity back to 2019 prices with higher livability. So if you look at the last round, you look at the last development that was launched in this area, is actually One Holland Village Residences. And if we look at the previous prices, it was actually non-harmonized, sold between a range of 2,400 PSF to 3,001 PSF for the 1 bedrooms, 2,317 PSF to 3,172 PSF for the 2 bedrooms, the 3 bedrooms at 2,315 PSF to 3,781 PSF, the 4 bedrooms starting from 3,072 PSF to 3,426 PSF. So in all, because they still haven't crossed their SSD mark yet, because most of the units were sold in 2023. In a way, 2026, we will see the resale transactions coming out. There is already a sub-sale transaction that happened for a 4-bedroom at 3,781 PSF. I think if we, given that more supply of units will come out next year when the resale supply increases, let's say it drops to about 3,500 PSF, that would already give Skye at Holland a good leverage and a safety net to work on, considering that they might be launching at 28 PSF. That has already provided the price gap for Skye at Holland to actually jump up. And if we actually do that prorated thingy of about GFA harmonized of about 7%, if you look at it that time, based on that launch price, it would mean that they would have to be launching at about mid 2.5s to 2.6-ish PSF. Means actually if you do that prorated, we did kind of go back in time if Skye at Holland was to launch at 2.8 PSF. And that itself, in a way, is a renewed opportunity heading back to 2019 prices. But let's deep dive a little bit more why I say there will be actually more livability. So if we look at One Holland Village distribution, there will be 62 units in 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms of 145 units, 3 bedrooms of only 80 units, and 4 bedrooms of only 9 units with 1 5-bedroom unit. I think we can see a difference in terms of the unit distribution already and who this developer is trying to cater to. You may argue that, well, of course, One Holland Village Residences is only 296 units, but I think we can see where the developer's strategy and vision was. They were actually all out trying to create a development that was focused on investment, but we see a change in the developer's vision for Skye at Holland, which is focusing more on meeting family needs, because they want to cater to the future consumer needs, which is families here, because there isn't much supply in this area. So you can see how much more that kind of high demand it will bring, because there is a need. If I need to relocate my family into Holland area, I need 3 or even 4 bedrooms. I need to have. But the thing is, there is not much supply going here, and Skye at Holland is here to fill this void. But let's deep dive into the layouts, and you can see why the Skye at Holland actually becomes even more livable. Take note, CCR itself is the one that is exempted from the average 85 square meters size units, because the government also understands that people may buy CCR for investments. There is a capacity to allocate more smaller units within a development, as well as they are not restricted by this policy. But if we look at the unit distribution as well as the layout, let's deep dive into it right now. So here we have is the One Holland Village floor plans for the 2-bedroom layouts. Coming in for the 2-bed 1 bath 689 square feet, averagely was 1.823 mil. You are received by the galley kitchen and then followed by a dining area and a living area. Can you see how small the living and dining area is, where there is not even a designated space? You're cramped up in that small space, all right, where the living and the dining area is actually overlapping each other, followed by the breakout to the dumbbell layout, which is very common. But because it is a non-harmonized development, that's why some of the space is wasted in the AC ledge itself. And that is the main reason why they are unable to maximize this 689 square feet. And of course, if you look at the balcony space, how big a balcony space this is. I've personally been up to One Holland Village myself, and it ponders me sometimes why the developer actually created such a big balcony. Next, we go to the 2-bedroom premium 797 square feet. You would think that the developer would have improved its layout and improved its livability. If you walk in through the main entrance, you will realize that you are greeted by a galley kitchen. From there, a dining area that, again, in such a small narrow space, so congested, with a living room that is interlapping with the dining area. Hey, how livable is this? Well, people do make sacrifices in a way, you know, because CCR has always this tussle. Should I use the same amount of budget but drop the size, or drop the unit type but be in a much more accessible location? Or I should use the same amount of money to sacrifice in terms of location but get a bigger space to meet my family needs. Alright, and if I finally decide to make this sacrifice, then your 2-bedroom should at least be livable for me. But how livable is this, having such a long balcony and such a wide balcony eating into the livable space? So the livability factors in terms of One Holland Village is actually quite low. So now we move on to the show flat type unit that I've gotten a bit of information on. You can see how the GFA harmonization actually helps to make the layout more effective. I think likelihood they are going to replicate the similar idea and concept that they have done at Upper House, because that is a proven winning formula. And with that in mind, you will realize that the 732 square feet, despite it being smaller than the 79 square feet 2 bedrooms at One Holland Village, they are able to provide an enclosable kitchen of 6.6 square meters. And we move into a living and dining of 2.8 meters wide, which we are not getting at One Holland Village Residences itself, because if I remember correctly, One Holland Village Residences, the width is only about 2.7 meters for the living room. So wider living room, something that we are accustomed to in terms of the mass market and RCR properties. And then we get a 9 square meter common bedroom with a master bedroom of 10.3 square meters. With that in mind, definitely the sizes at One Holland Village Residences itself, if I remember correctly, the bedrooms are only about 8 square meters. Bigger bedrooms, wider living room with enclosable kitchen. Isn't this more livable at the same price or same quantum compared to 2019 prices? Isn't this a renewed opportunity for you? If we look at the 3 bedrooms, we have the 1098 square feet, which average about 2.95 for One Holland Village Residences. Coming in from the main entrance, you get a very big utility room with a bit of wasted space. Alright, then next you get your dining area, and then followed by the living room. You get a very wide balcony space that eats all the way until bedroom 3 itself. Alright, that again is another space wastage, followed by the AC ledge, because it's a non-GFA harmonized development. Same thing for the 3-bedroom premium, 1281 square feet. You got this odd shaped balcony layout that is L-shaped. So again, it's into your dining area and your living area. What was supposed to be a regular rectangular shaped living dining, you're not able to do so because of this fragmentation in terms of the layout. Wasted space in the foyer area. Good thing you still get your kitchen and your store. Alright, but then again, because it's non-harmonized, your AC ledge eats into it. Basically, you are paying for unnecessary space. 1281 square feet seems big, but ultimately the livability factors are lower in One Holland Village. And if we look at Skye at Holland, this is the layout that we are getting down here. 3 meters wide living room with a regular size balcony, just like what we always see in the mass markets as well as city fringe properties. You get your enclosed kitchen, your bomb shelter, and of course the 2 bedrooms with 9 square meters and a big master bedroom. As you can see, the livability factors greatly increase, and it is something that all the consumers are mostly accustomed to. They have been seeing this. It has been proven winning formula. This layout is pretty much same like what we see at Springleaf or all the other previous projects that we have seen before, like Alta or Nava Grove. This is the common 3 and 4 bedroom layouts that we get there, which consumers are all very accustomed to, and this is something that people can visualize themselves staying in, meeting their livability needs. And then again, because it's GFA harmonized, the layout is becoming more efficient, but it is only 1076 square feet. So if we use that in my 1076 square feet to provide the same livability as a 1098 or 1281 square feet unit here, am I right to say the quantum will drop again, bringing us back to 2019 prices? 2019 prices, but yet achieve the same functionality and livability, or even better. Now, if we look at the 4-bedroom layout, 4-bedroom premium layout for One Holland Village, this is the 2088 square feet, but look at how big the balcony. Not only do you get the landscape usual balcony, But then again, you have the balcony that extends all the way until the junior suites. Can you imagine how much space is wasted? Again, this is non-GFA harmonized. That's why you get multiple AC ledgers that eats into your space. Of course, this is still quite a regular layout that's livable given that you're at 2088 square feet. 6.75 mil is on average, but this is the 5-bedroom premium at 1765 square feet. Drop the size, but more functionality, more livability with no wasted space. Each bedroom is 9.7 square meters, 9.5 square meters with a junior master bedroom of 14.7 square meters. Their rooms are already bigger than One Holland Village residences to begin with. The living area is 6.6 meters with a 34.7 square meters living and dining. Comes with a private lift as well similarly. So with that in mind, you get a lot more functionality, a lot more livability, but yet you do not have to break the banks in terms of quantum because of all the URA policies already in place to control the quantum. That same thing that you pay for 4-bedroom premium unit in One Holland Village residences, now you can get a 5-bedroom back to 2019 prices. Isn't this a renewed opportunity for all the consumers out there who are looking to upgrade into the CCR? You used to exit in terms of entry price, now suddenly you are priced back in with even more room to play around with in terms of quantum. So now we head on to the final verdict of Skye at Holland. For me, I think this development itself presents a renewed opportunity. Ever since the URA policies implementation, such as the GFA harmonization, it really does help in terms of the affordability for general consumers. It is finally a dream come true for many consumers that they are able to afford a CCR property, because with the narrowing price gap, because of decentralization that made everywhere else valuable as well, it narrowed the price gap to create this space for societal progression to happen. As what we always mentioned before in my previous charts, you can see from here the price gap used to be 150% price gap comparing to mass market properties, with about 70% price gap compared to RCR properties. Right now the gap has narrowed to less than 10% for RCR properties, and some projects, for example like Skye itself, is already below the average new launch prices of CCR and just slightly above RCR prices in that sense. So it does present a renewed opportunity, and the space has already been created. That's nice. You are in the midst of the changing policies of GFA harmonization, accompanied with the decentralized climate that allows this societal progression to happen. So everybody, first time buyers out there, if you are looking to really own your CCR property, a central region property, then this is your chance in the market to be able to do so. If we talk about facing wise, naturally nothing is perfect in Singapore. Even if you're the richest in Singapore, there will always be some flaws within the unit itself, within the landed property itself. Nothing is perfect in Singapore. For the northwest facing units, well, am I right to say that if you can buy such an expensive property already, all you need to do is just to close the windows? I'm sure you are able to go and afford a little bit more of the aircon, alright, just for your own lifestyle needs. And most importantly, when you're selling your place that time, remember to just stage up the place, close up the windows during the particular timing, turn on the aircon. If not, just avoid the timing during the sales process lah. In that sense, there are ways to be able to mitigate this. Of course, with the current lifestyle of making use the balcony and connecting the balcony space to the living room space, most of the time zip tracks are already implemented. So for those blocks that are facing each other, you are probably going to have your zip track up anyway. So this again will be mitigated. For those facing the HDB side, I mean, you will get a bit of the unblock facing towards the Holland Village side. Well, at times, maybe you might want to have a zip track as well. Anyway, zip track is so common here. So there is not much of a detrimental factor in terms of Skye. But of course, when we talk about transformation, yes, it's a matured estate, but again, matured estate also means one thing: low supply, high demand. And we have seen again, proven time and time again, these matured estates continue to grow in terms of track record. They have a sustainable pricing to grow for. But not only that, we also will be leveraging on the nearby Holland Plain transformation that is happening down there, which is further away from amenities, which is further away from transportation as well. And if the land prices there are already transacting at 1,400 per square foot per plot ratio and above, then naturally Skye at Holland is able to capitalize on that. So all in all, the final verdict of this development is very clear. But most importantly, these developers are able to capitalize on a policy that does not restrict them. Alright, but yet they never built many 1-bedrooms or 2-bedroom small units to capitalize on the investment profits. Actually, the developers are seeing something that you may not be seeing. They are already catering 40% and above of the development to homestay demand. The developer is actually going in the right direction, catering to market need that is non-existing in the Holland area, which is the homestay units. In One Holland Village, there's only 9 units of 4 bedrooms. Here we have so much more. It is very clear where the natural demand will flow to in the near future. And with such clarity in mind, that also means natural demand coming in, sustainable pricing, pulling up the entire development's pricing. If you're going for a 2-bedroom unit at Skye at Holland, you can really count on the 3 and 4 bedrooms to help you drive up the prices. And if you are going at a 3 and 4 bedroom unit, naturally you are feeding what the current market really needs in that area, because there is a lack of homestay demand units. So here, if we are replicating a similar scenario as what Upper House is, and Upper House, mind you, of course more than 60 to 70% sold out. If you look at this, they also have a very unique developer pricing strategy. Usually the bigger units should have a lower PSF than the smaller units. But if you look at Upper House itself, the bigger units have a same or higher PSF than the smaller units. So for those who are going for smaller units, you have that leverage down there for yourself, so that you know that there will be a breakthrough PSF pricing in terms of 3 and 4 bedroom with the natural demand coming in. And because you as the 2 bedroom got in at the same PSF as the 3 and 4 bedders, in a way you are also leveraging on that to help you drive up your prices. Isn't this a win-win scenario for both 3-4 bedroom as well as the 2 bedroom? As for the 3 and 4 bedrooms, does this sound like a disadvantage to you? No, because like what I mentioned to you, there is totally no supply in this area in terms of homestay unit. As long as the developer price the average pricing of all the units within this development reasonably, there is always a need. And like what I always mentioned before, the government vision changed ever since 2014. Buy property as a need. And what does need actually mean? No matter how expensive it is, I will still buy as long as I can afford. And that has been what the government has been doing, ensuring that income policies remain robust, ensuring that income align with housing prices so that people can afford this need. And that's why you have GFA harmonization policies. That's why you have various policies to ensure that the quantum is kept low. And now this is the renewed opportunity, and just nice you are in the midst of the changing policies that actually readjusted the quantum down so that it caters to your 3 and 4 bedroom consumer needs. And can they afford it? They can. It is a need. They will buy. Naturally, your natural demand will come in. So in a way, it's a win-win situation for the entire development. The 2 bedrooms will make money, the 3 and 4 bedrooms will also make money. Alright, you don't want a scenario where the 2 bedrooms, because of the lack of need and demand, never make, causing erratic prices within the development. Now it is uniform and consistent. So you get the balance of best of both worlds here. Are we likely to have similar strategies comparing Upper House and Skye at Holland? Yes, if you look at the table down here, we can see pretty much quite the same strategy that the developer is employing, but the only difference is the unit distribution down here, where we see 40% all focusing on 3 and 4 bedrooms, which will bring in even more price sustainability. So if you see Upper House being so successful now, can we repeat the same success formula here at Skye at Holland? But most importantly, this time around, you have more beneficial attributes working in your favor here at Skye at Holland. Like what I said before, no project is perfect. This project itself does help maximize all the advantages that it can get, and you are having all 4 developers coming together. Are you seeing the same vision as what these 4 developers are seeing? So I hope you like what you have seen so far based on all my previous videos analysis, and I think by now you can see the competency as well as the kind of analysis that I can do. Of course, all these are videos based on individual product reviews. The whole idea is this: there is a vast extensive information in YouTube, in Facebook, so on and so forth. The key thing in today's market is this: how do we piece up everything for you to draw out the call to action based on your scenario? Alright, because now you may be overwhelmed with so much information that you have become paralyzed. How am I going to help you see a different perspective, but most importantly, merge this perspective with you? And the key thing to take note is this: it is going to be another ballot. And given the success that happened at Upper House and all the other CCR developments, you may be driven by emotions. So when to walk away? What is your walk away pricing? What is the unit selection? How to choose your units? But most importantly, is Skye at Holland even the right project and the product for your current scenario? I think all this will need a one-to-one consultation, and it's better to do so earlier, as we still have a 2 to 3 weeks gap towards the Skye at Holland launch. Contact me, my number is 94569398, and from there we can set up a one-to-one consultation to cater to all of your scenario, but most importantly, determine whether Skye at Holland is the right product for you based on your current scenario. The key thing is this: do not fall into the trap like Admiral at Katong, where we see the starting price is only 2.3 to 2.4 PSF, but end the day off with a 2,900 PSF, all because of emotions and hype. Do not let emotions and hype blind you. Let me be the eyes and the light for you. So remember to consult me as I share more essentials concepts with you. Remember to like, share and subscribe if you find this channel helpful so far.